Hello, everybody. Welcome to the live. We are live today. I am answering a question that we get a lot on the channel about what are your blocks and how can you find them. So yeah, we're going to dive right on into this. And yeah, if there's some great questions in the chat, we will answer those. But yeah, I'm just going to dive right in. First of all, guys, we are having a contest. We get to 100,000 subscribers. We're giving away some free coaching sessions. Check the description in the YouTube channel for the details on that, as well as if you would like to ask me, Amanda, a question, then you can definitely sign up at the Patreon and post them there, and I'm happy to answer them on these YouTube lives. So that's a way that you can guarantee that I am going to absolutely answer your question. Always put as much detail in there as possible if it's about your personal life, that of your situation, because our thoughts create. And one of the big reasons why here at Create Your Future we don't answer, give coaching in the comments of our YouTube section is because your thoughts create, and for us to be able to give you sound advice on how to proceed and intentions on how to proceed, we need to actually know what your thoughts are. What are your thoughts that are creating your situation? Because there are so many different ways that you can create a third party. What thoughts did you have that actually created that third party or whatever showing up in your reality? So your blocks aren't going to be the same as on my blocks. So that's why we do offer the sessions with our coaches, because they're going to get into your mind and figure out what you're thinking to create what you're actually what you actually have in your to figure out how you actually created what you have in your reality, right? I mean, a really good example of that is, for instance, me, I've always had the story that I'm a great girlfriend, and any guy would want to be with me. But I also had the story about men that were previously married that they didn't want to commit because they had baggage. So, if someone was to say to me that my block was, self-concept, that actually wouldn't be true, because it wasn't about my self-concept. I thought I was amazing. It was about my story about men that were previously married. So everybody's blocks are pretty much different, and they could be a different combination. It could be a combination of not thinking you're good enough, as well as your assumptions about the other person, or it could also be what your assumptions about relationships are, that it never works out for you, right? So if it never works out for you, then that's got to show up somehow, right? So, it really depends on what your fix is, depends on how you're actually creating what's showing up in your life. Because, there could be a million thoughts that could cause someone to break up with you. There could be a million thoughts that made them want to be with you. We need to know what those thoughts are to be able to fix them. But diving into diving into how you can actually find your blocks and what your blocks are. Okay, so let's start talking about that. So if you want to know what your blocks are, a really good way to do it is to listen to your thoughts, okay? So the first thing is, what is a block, okay? So when you create a declaration or an intention for something that you want, okay, I want to be in a relationship, okay? And if we're going to live from the end of being in a relationship, a happy relationship, we want every thought to come from being in that end, okay? So let's say, for instance, if you say, well, you know what, I'm not good enough, he's not going to want to be with me until I lose 5 pounds. Would you have that thought if you were in that relationship? So the first thing is, a block is any thought that you have that's actually not supporting what your end goal is. Okay. You're not in alignment. So me thinking I'm not good enough because I'm overweight, to be in a relationship, and me wanting a relationship, that one thought about me being overweight is going to be a block. Okay. So that's what a block is. That's what resistance is. It's anything that you're thinking that's actually not in line and not coming from your end result. Okay. So how do you find your blocks? Okay. So your blocks will be told to you by your person. Okay. The specific person. They won't necessarily be told to you by everybody in your reality, because you can have other stories about other people in your reality. Okay. So for instance, you could say, well, you can have a story about, say, your friend Gerry, who's always negative and has negative, assumptions about relationships. And is he reflecting back all your blocks when he's not your specific person? Probably not. I mean, you've got an assumption that he's negative. So the really good ways to find out what your actual blocks are is your specific person. What do you think they think about you? What are they reflecting back to you? Okay, what are your thoughts about yourself? What are your thoughts and assumptions about them? And what is your beliefs about relationships? Okay, the other way you can find your blocks is listen to your thoughts. Listen to your thoughts. What are your thoughts actually saying? How are you feeling when you think about what you actually want to manifest? And then the other way that you can find your blocks is take a look at your 3D. How is your specific person acting? What are they doing? How are they showing up like in the 3D for you? Okay. So these are all great places that you're going to find your blocks, but really your blocks just come down to what your actual thoughts are. So what I do to get past my blocks is I sit down and I write out everything that's stopping me. Like what is stopping me, or at least do it in my head. So, I'll write down and I'll be like, this is what, Gerry thinks of me. This is what I think about Gerry. This is what I think about relationships. This is what I think about myself, all the negative stuff. And then I take them and cross them out one by one and write a new intention. And I focus on that new list. Okay. So your blocks are very personal to you, and they're going to come from your previous experience, maybe previous relationships, how you were brought up. They're going to come from definitely your past experiences. Okay. So, yeah. So let's talk about this. Someone who's got a question right here. You're welcome. You're welcome. Somebody said, thank you for doing all you do. You're welcome. So somebody says here, so my SP ignoring me is a block. Well, I mean, if you want to be in a relationship with them, then yeah, the thought that you have to create them to ignore you is a block. So why are they ignoring you? What thought did you have to create them ignoring you? It could be just as simple as they ignore me. And if you want to have attention from them, then having the thought that they ignore you 100% is a block. Again, your blocks are in relation to what you want to create. If you don't want to talk to them, you don't care if they ignore you, saying they ignore you isn't a block, right? So like a really good example of that is like, me and Andrew, we do both work from home and we sort of ignore each other all day while we're doing our thing. And I'm okay with that. That's not a block. Okay. But he doesn't ignore me in every part of my relationship. So again, it's within the context. If you want a relationship where they spend all this time with you and they're constantly giving you attention, then, saying that they ignore you is definitely a block. Now, if they're showing you and your 3D that they're ignoring you, those are their actions. What the question is what thoughts are you having to create them to do that? Okay. What thoughts? Is it just the straight up that they ignore you, or is it straight up that they don't care? Or like what thoughts are creating them to actually ignore you? And, I'm sure if you dig in there, you'll actually be able to find that out. So there's another one here is SP hot and cold behavior a block based on our over 20 years history and him never choosing me after our initial breakup years ago? So hot, yeah. I mean, it depends. What is your end goal? Is your end goal him always having, consistent behavior where he shows you love? Absolutely. So then hot and cold behavior would be a block. Again, the question is, how are you creating the hot and cold behavior? What thoughts are you having? Usually hot and cold behavior is going to be coming from, okay, you know what? He absolutely loves me. He spends a lot of time with me. And then, oh, you know what? He's just not consistent. He doesn't, want to be with me. So when you go back and forth with your assumption of the person, they're going to go back and forth, and that's going to cause hot and cold behavior. So if you want consistent attention, then yeah, hot and cold behavior is going to be a block. Now, yeah, 20 years history of him never choosing you is going to give you a story that he doesn't want to be with you, and then maybe even make that into I'm not good enough. And when you go down those thoughts that, he doesn't choose me and I'm not good enough, when you're having those thoughts, he's going to be cold. And then when you choose to have the assumption that he wants to be with me, then you know what? You're going to be hot. I just nailed it. You're welcome. I wasn't sure, so I just kept going. So, how do I stabilize my state of being? Well, you say I'm stable, but also it's even farther than that. It's about, I got Gerry here, I'm petting his head. Gerry's like, hi. So you've got to be consistent in your thoughts. When you're consistent in your thoughts and your mental diet, you're going to stabilize yourself, right? Yeah. So, how do you deal with the fight that we have in our mind while changing our self concept? What is the gentle way to do so? So, yeah, hi, Jerry. Hi. So, basically, right, is you want to, okay, so how do you deal with the fight that we have in our minds? So, it's fighting the good fight. That's what I call it. So if you're having a fight in your mind, you have to follow through with it. Okay. It's like, oh no, Jerry doesn't like me. No, but everyone's being pushed out. So I know he likes me. Like you've got to win that fight. You have to have that fight. You have to, get yourself to the point where, you're having consistent thoughts. Okay. So you change your self concept with every single thought that you have. As soon as you say, Jerry loves me for me, you've just changed your self concept. If you say Jerry doesn't love me, then you've just changed your self concept another way. So that fight in your head is very much the same as your self concept, because your self concept is in relation to other things. Okay. So my self concept in a relationship, like I said earlier, was that, what, I'm a great girlfriend. Everyone loves me. Every boyfriend loves me. That's my self concept about me. Now I had a separate fight about men that were previously married, like Andrew, and I thought they didn't want to commit and had baggage. So yeah, there would have been a fight in my head about that. Okay. So they're two completely separate things. Okay. But you have to follow through with, every time you think, okay, he doesn't want a relationship. He doesn't want to commit. No, he does want to commit. He does want to be with me. So it comes down to mental diet. No matter what you're changing in your life, whether it's your self-concept and saying you love yourself, or whether it's, changing anything, you've always got to do a mental diet. And how you do the mental diet is you simply say to yourself, you have a thought and you say, do I want to create that? And if the answer is no, revise it on the spot to what you want. Okay. And you may have to do that a few times. I mean, there's times I'm walking around the house muttering to myself and Andrew's like, what's wrong? And I'm like, I'm fighting with myself right now, and, my fight usually ends with, no, Amanda, everyone's you pushed out, your thoughts create, I intend to feel good about this. I intend to think positive about this. And then I restate what I actually want to create. And then I'll also create all the little things. Okay. The little tiny things. Okay. Like holding the hummingbird or like finding money on the ground, little things that I have no resistance to that remind me everyone is me pushed out. And then that also stops the fight in my head because I'm just like, on top of the world, it's so funny when I say something and Andrew's like, I was just thinking that, get out of my head. I sit there for a moment and I'm like, why am I ever worried about anything? Like, why? Because everyone's me pushed out. So when you get that evidence that your thoughts are always constantly creating, it helps to snap you out of it. So it's very important when you're creating and you're new at creating to start creating those little things, start making those little things of things that you actually want to see that will remind you that everyone is you pushed out, that people saying things, people wearing certain things, your thoughts are constantly going out. And if you don't like what's coming back and reflecting to you and it's upsetting you, it's because we've had those thoughts to begin with, right? Yeah. I know Alexis is absolutely awesome. Yeah, I know. I love it when Gerry makes an appearance too. So, how many times I'm to affirm at once, like I'm affirming before going to bed, and then like how many times? So what I suggest is doing a mental diet, okay? And it's basically an all day long thing, okay? So like, let's say, I'm walking around the house and like, I'm thinking about Andrew and all of a sudden I'm like, oh, you know what? Andrew's probably going to be in a bad mood because of the traffic. Immediately I'm like, no, Andrew's going to get home, no problem. There's going to be no traffic and he's going to be in a good mood. And then I move on. And let's say I'm thinking about subscribers, you guys, right? And I'm like, oh, I don't know if my video was any good. And I'm like, no, my video was great. It's going to help so many people and everybody's going to get success. And then I move on. And then let's say I think about, I don't know, Gerry. And I'm like, oh, what is with Gerry's like totally like thinks I was like a total like, weirdo last night. No, Gerry thinks I'm absolutely amazing. So anytime the subject comes to your mind, you want to listen to your thoughts. Okay. And then if you have any negative thoughts, you want to correct them into positive thoughts on the spot. Okay. So you want to affirm and do your intentions until you get to the point where you feel like, you know what? No, I believe this. Okay. And other things are going to help you with that. So manifesting in other areas and seeing other manifestations are going to help you to get you into that spot quicker. But you basically want to affirm and change the story enough so you actually feel neutral about it. Okay. So it's not just like, use these 3 affirmations and you're going to get your SP, because again, like I said on the beginning, your blocks are going to be different than other people's blocks. You've got to nail all of your blocks because your thoughts are things. They stay in play until you acknowledge them and renounce them. So ignoring them is not enough. So I told this story on a previous live where, I intended to find money on the ground. Okay. But I also have a story that people don't carry cash anymore. They only carry cards. Okay. So I was intending to find money on the ground. And so I was out at the bank one Saturday, and the bank's usually closed here on the Saturday, or it was a Sunday or something. Anyways, and I was like, I found this like gift card on the ground, and it was like beside where a car was parked. So it was like, oh, I'm like, that's weird. And it looked brand new. So I was like, okay. So I picked it up. Don't know why. I just had the urge, picked it up. I don't usually pick up garbage. Well, sometimes I pick it up and throw it in the garbage can, like, to be nice, if I've got like a glove around, I just, I don't know. I like to help the community. But anyway, that's another story. But so I picked up this gift card, and then I went to the grocery store that the gift card was for. And guess what? There's $200 on it. So my intention of finding cash on the ground couldn't actually come true because I had another story that people only carry cards. Okay. So my manifestation of finding money had to basically weave in and out of my actual beliefs that I had. So now, had I said, I intend to find cash on the ground and everybody carries cash, so I'm going to find cash, that would have actually changed it. So I would have found cash. Okay. Now, the other thing is, right, is understand that your intentions have to go through all of these roadblocks that you put there, all of your other beliefs. So if I didn't find exactly cash, it's not about beating myself up going, I'm not good at this. I didn't find cash. I just found a gift card. It's about understanding why I found the gift card. I went, yeah, of course I didn't find cash. Of course I found a gift card because that's my story. Okay. So that's why we want to identify what all your previous thoughts are, right? So like for the one that had the 20 years of on and off hot and cold behavior, go through what's that whole entire story. Start going through all those previous thoughts and start revising them. Start, put them on a list and cross them off one by one and put them into new intentions, because you've got to shift all that history and everything that you've created there, right? Because our thoughts are things and they stay in play until we identify them to change them. How do you manifest commitment in marriage? Well, I did that. I am getting married next year. I broke my ring though. Broke gold jewelry. And so that's why I'm not wearing it today. You know what I did? I actually was like, I was worried. I was like, when's if this ring breaks? And then sure enough, it actually broke. And she was like, maybe you got it caught in a door. And I'm like, okay, my finger's not damaged and my nail didn't break. And I think I would have noticed if I got my finger caught in the door. So, I mean, our thoughts are amazing. So amazing that I actually like broke like gold in half and didn't even notice. So, so how you manifest marriage and commitment is you start in steps. Okay. So you work backwards. You want to be married. Okay. So before you get married, you got to be engaged. Before that, you either want to move in together, start dating seriously, and then just dating and just getting into communication. And then when you've got your steps there, you start working on it. Okay. What are my blocks? Okay. With them even talking to me. Okay. And you work on that and you find your blocks there and you start creating those affirmations till you get the communication. You feel good. You're talking great. Next step. Okay. We want to start, dating. Okay, great. We work on those blocks and you take it piece by piece. Now, I know the end goal is, basically being married, but living from the end of being married includes all of those steps up there. Okay. Just because we do law of attraction doesn't mean we change how we actually do these things in the 3D, because we've always been doing law of attraction. Everybody's constantly or law of assumption. Your thoughts are constantly creating. It never stops. It never stopped before you knew this. And it never stops now that you know this. Now that you know this, it's just about consciously moving them forward. Of course, you want to, intend that you guys are married. They want to marry you, but you've also got to take a look at all the other stories. I was intending that Andrew wanted to marry me from day one, but I had a story that he was previously married and previously married people had baggage and didn't want to get in relationships again. So I had to take care of that block, right? And then, there's been little blocks along the way that I had to actually deal with. And, it's about recognizing them and it's about enjoying the journey. Thank you. I know anyone that's been on this channel a long time knows my journey. Yeah. So what else do we got here? Oh yeah, exactly. You're asking yourself, where's the wedding ring? Boom, boom. Yeah, no, I know. I feel so naked without it. It was funny. I was talking with another coach and they're like, it's like your shock collar, because it's true. It's like I look at it and I'm like, oh, I don't react to Andrew, right? And then the ring came off and I'm like, right, like that poor guy. Yeah. How do we build more faith in the law if the logical mind is saying that it's just wishful thinking? You know how I did it? Okay, so I've done lots of coaching before I started Create Your Future. I think coaching is very beneficial. It's changed my life. And even when I started, with Create Your Future, I was doing coaching with various, I had a psychologist that taught law of assumption, law of attraction, and stuff like that, and a few other like, world famous courses and stuff. So, like Landmark Worldwide was very, really a pivotal point in my life. So how did I build it? First of all is, I made sure that I held myself accountable. But not only that, is the biggest thing that I ever did was I was in this course, and which was basically a course about everyone as you pushed out. And they said, you know what, write down a list of complaints. And so I wrote a list of complaints, and they said, okay, about just general things in life. And I said, okay. And then they said, take the one that you think is the most impossible. And the one for me was paying for parking. Where I lived at the time, paid parking was everywhere. Like you just couldn't get around it. And it drove me nuts. And they said, okay, now for 1 week, okay, never complain about this verbally to anybody. Okay. Anytime you think about it, just create that you get free parking. And anytime you think about it, create that you get free parking. And so sure enough, you know what? I remember I used to complain about people paying for parking. I stopped doing that. If anyone brought it up, I'd be like, no, you know what? I was like, no, I find free parking, even though I hadn't yet. And then every time I saw like a parking meter, it would remind me. And I'm like, no, I get free parking. And anytime I was just sort of thinking about it, I was like, no, I always get free parking. And then I'm not kidding. And I was so skeptical too. And I was like, I don't think this is going to work. Like, what is, all these meters just going to like, disappear? Like the city's not going to take them down. And then all of a sudden, about a week later, maybe 2 weeks later, I started noticing that I would find free parking on the side road, or I'd go up to a parking meter and there was money in it. Or I would go into a parking garage and somebody would give me their parking ticket thing so I could use it, and it would have enough time on it. And then one time I was going to a networking event and I was worried about paying for the parking, and it was at a hotel. I'm like, oh, hotel definitely paid parking. And I was like, no, it's going to be free. And I remember sitting in traffic and having this little fight with myself about parking, right? Like of all the things to fight with myself with, but that was what I was fighting with myself at the time, because, I wanted to see this in action. And I also wanted to prove it wrong, but I wanted to prove it right too. So, but I was like testing it. And so then I was like, okay, so I drove there, and sure enough, I get to the parking lot. It says, remember your stall number. And again, the little fight in my head, oh, it's paid. I'm like, no, it's going to be free. No, it's paid. No, everyone's being pushed out. It's going to be free. And then all of a sudden I park my car and it says, remember your stall number. And I remember my stall number. I'm getting my wallet out, get my credit card out. And I'm thinking, no, it's going to be free. And all of a sudden I get to the parking meter, and there's this like just printer paper, right? With writing on like a printer, like they printed out a sign, and it said, anyone coming to this networking event has free parking. Register your license plate with the front desk. And I was like, why am I ever worried? So how you build your faith is, you focus on that little list. Okay. Focus on that little list of, manifestations that you have no resistance to, but you'll recognize as something you created. And then even further, take it a step further, takes the biggest complaint you have. Okay. And just focus on it for 2 weeks. Okay. Don't let yourself complain about it to other people. Fight that fight in your head. When you think about the negative, go no, straight to your intention. Okay. And then you'll start to see it change. Okay. Especially, that's how I learned how to create something where I had resistance was, as I went, wow, I persisted in that for 2 weeks. And you know what, when somebody wanted to talk about it, I just acted as if and said, no, I get free parking, because I knew, and I just kept persisting on it. And I realized, wow, this is how you create something that you think is impossible. You start telling yourself the new story, and you don't let the old story come in, because we're creatures of habit. Our thoughts are automatically going to go to the dominant thought that we have, the regular thought pattern we have. So the more we intercept that, the easier it is for the new story to take hold, the more fluid the new story is to take hold. And to this day, I always get free parking. And Andrew says to me, he's like, it's funny, every time I park with you, somebody always gives us like their leftover parking stub. And I'm like, I know, I got free parking for life now, So let's see here. Yes, fighting your thoughts can be the cause of the back and forth results with the SP. And also spiraling in thoughts does that as well. Absolutely. So, I remember I was actually, I was at this store and I wanted to buy this dress, and I had this like $20 off coupon, and the coupon, I got it out and I was like, and I realized the coupon was expired, but I wanted to use it anyway because I was like, oh, what's the big deal? So I said, oh, I got this coupon on my phone. And she was like, okay, I got the code here. And I was like, oh, maybe she's going to scan my phone and find out it's expired. And then she was like, maybe I'll scan your phone. And then she's like, and then I'm like, no, scan the paper. Then she's like, oh no, I'll scan the paper. And like the minute my thoughts went, she went back. So this was very much real time. Right. And, the other thing is like, and I've done this before, I've had a thought and I'd be like, oh, you know what? I was returning potatoes to Safeway once. And I was like, oh, they're probably going to ask me for the receipt. And I'm like, nah, she won't. She'll just do it. And she'll remember me. And then I remember I went in there to return these potatoes. And I said, well, I don't have she goes, do you have the receipt? And I said, no, I don't. She's like, oh, that's okay. I remember you. And then she returned it. So yeah, our thoughts, every thought matters. But if you do catch, your negative thoughts and switch them quick enough, sometimes those negative thoughts won't actually manifest. Okay. So if you stay on top of the good ones, right, and you catch them right when you have them, there's a good chance they won't. So I don't want to say, I don't want anyone to be like, oh no, I've had a negative thought. That's it. It's going to, no, don't even go there. Don't even do that, because that's only giving that thought more power. Because even if you have a thought that you don't want, you change it right away. And then that thought that you didn't want half shows up, but the new thought's going to show up as long as you're not dwelling on worrying about having that old thought. You know what I mean? So everything is fluid. It constantly changes, right? So you always want to, to be focusing on what you want and have that thought, right? Oh, you're welcome. Awakening to love, you're welcome. I appreciate that. Let's take a look here. We've got another question, 2 questions. I recently had a friend of mine ghosted me after I helped her so much, and I feel hurt. I have so much movement with my specific person, but doubt keeps creeping in, and I feel like there's somebody else. Okay, so, I would say that there's a good chance here that it's your assumption of people, right? And also what people think about you. Okay. So, it looks like you had a friend ghost you. So what were the thoughts that, that caused that? Like, did you do something and think, oh no, they're not going to want to talk to me? Or, like what thoughts led up to that? Okay. And as long with your doubts with your specific person, okay, you've got to fight that. Okay. You know what? Everyone's you pushed out. And if you think that someone else is there, you're going to create that. So you got to tell yourself, no, my thoughts create, everyone's me pushed out. And you know what? It's only me and they want to be with me. And the more that you reaffirm that, the more you fight those negative thoughts, you're going to break that thought pattern that you're having. Okay. And then you can even add some, intentions in there, like I'm good enough to have this, right? So you want to get honest with yourself of what thoughts that you're having that create this. So, I mean, no surprise. Anyone watches Gerry's Adventures, I vape. So, and it's so funny. So every once in a while, right? And this happens, I'll be like, hanging out, right? And Andrew will be working, and I'm pretty sure it's something that he's like working on, and he makes like a noise, and all of a sudden I'm like, oh, he's upset. And then I'm like, oh, is it my vaping? Oh, he's upset at my vaping. And then all of a sudden, not kidding you, 2 seconds later, he's like, oh, do you have to vape in the house? And I'm like, of course. Of course, right? I created that, right? So we want to get honest with ourselves. How are we creating these things in our reality? And then, and then take responsibility for it, right? I intend that, what, he's okay with my vaping, and he's okay with it. And he doesn't care if I vape. And, in fact, he supports it. You know what I mean? Like, so we want to watch what thoughts we're having. So in your situation, faith, hope, and love is, what thoughts are you having? Are you thinking that you've done something that they're going to ghost you? Like, where is this? So, maybe start with, I do feel good about myself. Everybody does love me. This person does love me. Is it the story about them? Are they ghosting you because you've got a story that they ghost you whenever you do something, or they're just that type of person? So I would want to know what the thoughts are behind what created that, because it could be anything. It could be like, oh, you know what? They are just the type of person that just ghosts me. Or, oh my goodness, I said something and they're not going to want to talk to me. Or I did this and they're going to be unhappy with it and not want to talk to me. So how did you create it? Right? That's that's the big thing. How did you create it? Right? Okay, there's a lot of talk on X. Yeah, there is. That's pretty common. But how to manifest someone we didn't know too well but had a crush on? Well, it's even easier than actually manifesting an ex, okay? Because with a crush, you don't have any past story. With an ex, you've got a past story that you got to revise that made them an ex, okay? So, how do you manifest a crush? Well, I mean, what do you want to create with your crush? But I would really start with, working on how you feel about you and how the other person feels about you. Okay. So if you've got a crush, that would indicate and imply, and I'm going to assume that you like them, but they don't necessarily like you or you don't think they do. So you really want to sit down and go, what does this crush think about me? Okay. And sit down and go, my crush thinks da 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 da. Okay. So you create, because everyone's you pushed out, you're going to create exactly what they're going to think about you. And of course, take a look at yourself. Are you creating that you're not good enough? You're too shy. You need to lose 5 pounds. You want to work on that as well. You know what? I am perfect the way I am. They love it that I'm shy, or da 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 da. So, with a crush, it's a lot easier. Then you would just start focusing on, them talking to you. The other thing is, the question is, I mean, are you talking to your crush? Are you willing to talk to them and say hi? If you're not willing to say hi because you're too nervous, they're you pushed out, they're going to be nervous as well, and they're not going to reach out. Okay. So, I remember, I had a friend of mine, and, she really wanted to talk to this guy, but she had too much anxiety to actually reach out to him. And it was like, well, he's you pushed out. If you're like worried that he's going to reject you, then he's sitting there worried that you're going to reject him and he's not going to reach out. And then sure enough, she got up the courage and she actually like messaged him and said, oh, you know what? I've been thinking about you since our last date months ago, years ago, or whatever. And I was just wondering how you've been doing. And he was like, oh my goodness, I'm so glad you reached out. I was so worried that you didn't want to talk to me. So, everyone's us pushed out. Okay. If we're have anxiety and we're scared to pick up the phone and talk to somebody, then they're not going to be comfortable, and we're putting up a force field, right? So we get what we give. Okay. So, yeah. Thank you guys. So, yeah. So here we go. We got a question. I don't think so negative about my ex. I always affirm, but I'm having nightmares, and every night, he's with another girl. I'm waiting for him. Okay. So nightmares and dreams don't mean anything. Don't give them any meaning. Okay. Because, basically, when it comes to what we dream at night is, and psychologists say, we're processing all of our emotions, we're processing all of the thoughts that were the dominant ones in our mind, so to speak, right? And sometimes, I mean, I've had nightmares of Andrew, like, cheating on me, and I've woken up angry at him. And yet I don't have any thoughts throughout the day about him cheating on me or anything like that. Actually, he's the last guy that I've ever been with that I'll ever think that about. Okay. So I wouldn't give any meaning to your nightmares. I would be more that, your subconscious mind is just processing everything that you've gone through the day. Okay. So don't give that any meaning. It doesn't have to have any meaning. It's empty and meaningless. In fact, you can say, I have nightmares, and you'll have nightmares. You can say, I have good thoughts, and you'll have good thoughts. Like, I have great dreams. You can even give your subconscious commands to say, I intend that my subconscious mind, gives me the answer to this question. Or I intend, that my subconscious mind gives me a brilliant business idea when I'm sleeping. So, and Napoleon Hill actually explained it as well. That's how he got the title to his book, Think and Grow Rich, that he was going to bed one night, and before he went to bed, he gave his subconscious mind orders. He said, you are going to come up with the perfect name for this book. And then he woke up at 3 a.m. and he had the name for his book on his mind. Okay. So you give your subconscious mind its orders. Okay. So before you go to bed, you say, you're going to have good dreams. You're going to have dreams that make me feel good, or whatever you want to do. I tell my subconscious mind every night to heal my body, to bring me back to perfect health, and to give me great ideas, and to give me a good sleep, and, to basically do everything that I wanted to do without my subconscious mind getting in the way. Okay. Our subconscious mind wants us to be perfect. It has this perfect blueprint of us. And our conscious mind, that little voice in your head, is the one that gets in the way and it stops it. Have you ever noticed that if you're like, if you're sick or you've got like an injury, if you sleep, you heal a lot quicker? Well, that's because your subconscious mind doesn't have your conscious mind in the way, and it's just doing its job. It doesn't have to worry about what your conscious mind is either blocking it or allowing it to do. So, dreams don't mean anything. Give your mind, your subconscious mind orders before you go to bed. Yeah. So I was affirming for my SP, and right after I saw the type of her car, I'm receiving lots of signs lately. Do signs mean what they think we mean? Okay. So I love this question. Everything is empty and meaningless. Nothing actually means anything. Okay. Nothing means anything. So we give things meaning. So a sign would imply that there's somebody or some force out there saying you're on the right track, but there isn't. It's just you. So when something happens, okay, the reason why you saw her car was because you're focusing on her, okay, thinking about her car, and all of a sudden you're going to see her car. So like an example is, have you ever okay, I bought a Dodge Dart years ago, and I saw it on the lot. I bought it. I've never seen one on the road. And all of a sudden after I bought it, I saw Dodge Darts everywhere. That's because I was consciously focused on Dodge Darts. So my subconscious mind had to show me the Dodge Darts. It's empty and meaningless. That's just the way creation works. What you focus on, you're going to see more of. Same thing when Andrew bought his Palisade. I've never heard of a Palisade in my life. And he just looked it up online. And all of a sudden, after he bought one, everybody in the town's got a Palisade. In fact, I saw a purple Palisade at the subway yesterday. So that's how we create. So now, can you give these signs you're seeing meaning that is happening? Absolutely. If you are going to give anything a meaning, give it a good meaning. Okay. But it's not necessarily like you're on the right track. Okay. It obviously shows that you're focusing on her, and that things like of hers, like a lot of times when people are creating intentions about their specific person, they're going to see the person's name show up places. Very common, because you're saying their name, you're focusing on the name. Now, sometimes when you have partial manifestations where you're seeing, say I intend for Gerry to call me, and then all of a sudden, so-and-so's got a Gerry and so-and-so's got a Gerry, and you see Gerry on that business card, well, and Gerry's not calling you, then generally that means that you need to go in and find out, what your story is of why Gerry isn't calling you. Because, if you're seeing Gerry, that's showing up, well, then you should also be having Gerry call you. So the question is, right, use that as feedback. I'm seeing Gerry's name. So obviously my intention's like working in my reality. Okay, why isn't Gerry calling me? Oh, that's right. I don't think he likes me. Okay, I intend he likes me. You know what I mean? So like I said, our thoughts are things, and they stay into play until we decide to acknowledge them. So like, for instance, and this is an old story I've told, is, when I was years ago, when I was like 18, I was like, oh, people can't drive when it's sunny out. People forget to use their blinkers, and they're just all over the place. And then, you know what, that happened for 20 years. And then 20 years later, I was like, oh, I need to change the story. So finally I was like, no, I intend that people are the best drivers ever when it's sunny out. And then all of a sudden I stopped complaining about people driving, and they're driving when it was sunny out. So your thoughts and stay into play until you acknowledge them. And so that's why when you wake up in the morning, your house is still here, your computer's still here, your Gerry doll's still here, because you've created that. Okay. Now, if I was to think I've lost Gerry, then all of a sudden my subconscious mind would need to lose him, and I would lose him, and he would no longer be in my reality. But then as soon as I say, okay, I'm going to find my Gerry doll again, and then all of a sudden I'm going to find my Gerry doll again, and he's going to be back in my reality. So, and so that's why it's so important that we take a look at our previous stories, our previous thoughts, and we dig them out, because our thoughts stay in play. If it didn't, what would happen is we would wake up every day and nothing would be here, nothing. Now, I know this sucks when, you have a situation that you've created that you don't like, and it sucks that it stays into play until you acknowledge it and change it. But it's great when things are going good in your life. It's like, you have this great relationship and everything's going great. And that stays into play until you change it, until Andrew's faithful until the day I say he isn't, right? So, and as long as it's something you want, then it's great. You get to wake up and enjoy that without recreating it every day. You know what I mean? So that's, one of the things that, that's how that works. So signs don't mean anything. So I booked a family holiday for me and my child and my SP, and haven't told him. He said before I manifest him back, he wouldn't go on holidays with me again. Okay. So we want to start creating. He wants to go on holidays with me. So I think here, faith, hope, and love is to really take a look from what I'm just seeing with your comments. Take a look of what your assumptions are. What do you think he thinks about you? What does you think he thinks about the relationship, right? Let's really focus on that, as well as I'm good enough. Now, what your list of what he thinks about you is, and what you want him to think about you is going to be unique to you. That, you need to sort out, what are these negative thoughts? Like, why is he saying that he doesn't want to go on holidays with you again? Did something happen? You're going to need to revise that, right? So like I said, when we get into finding people's blocks, we need to know what your thoughts are. How are you creating it? There's like 100 different ways that you can create a third party. You can create a third party. Actually, me and Erica just did a video about it. You can create a third party just by thinking, oh, he's going to get back with his girlfriend. Or you can create a third party just by thinking, oh, I'm not good enough, I'm never chosen. Or a combination. So there's so many different thoughts that can create a third party. The question is what thoughts did you have to create the situation in your life, right? So your thoughts create, and in order for somebody to help you change those thoughts, we need to know what those thoughts are. Now, if you want to do it on your own, then a really great way to do it is to say, okay, what's my end goal? My end goal is to be on vacation with my specific person. Okay, why doesn't he want to go on vacation with me? Why do I think he doesn't want to go? And what did he tell me is the reason why he didn't want to go? And what do I think about the situation? And take all the thoughts that are negative and change them into the positive, right? Once we listen to our thoughts, we know that we're able to create. So let's do a few questions off of TikTok here. I've just been, guys, just to answer your question, I take questions from the Patreon group. Those ones I guarantee to answer. But today I'm branching out a little bit, and I'm answering the questions off of the YouTube chat. And let me just do a couple here on the TikTok. I'm just going to scroll back. So how to seek validation and reassurance from within. It's great. You know what you would do is you would say, you would create that. I feel like I'm amazing. So, what you can also say, well, you know what, everyone reassures me that I'm amazing. Everything is created from within. So like, for instance, Andrew tells me he loves me. I manifest him saying that because it makes me feel good. So, I also say I love myself. That makes me feel good. So you can call in how you want to feel. I feel validated. I feel reassured. I feel confident in everything I do. So you manifest the feelings in you just by saying that you feel them, and you will feel them. And you can also manifest other people validating you and other people reassuring you. And that feels good. And there's nothing wrong with that. It's your reality. And why not intend that people say nice things to you and things that make you feel good? I have no problem with that at all. I know in many years ago, I would hear people say, well, why get it from somebody else? Give it to yourself. But you are giving it to yourself when you get it from somebody else, because the only reason why they're saying it is because you thought them to say it. So you're giving it to yourself because they're you pushed out, right? Let's see here. Yeah, how do I stop comparing myself physically, feeling like there's competition with my ASP? So, again, change a story, right? Let's change our story. I'm the best thing ever, and he wants to be with me and only me. There is no competition. I feel, like I'm the best, right? You want to create yourself being comfortable with yourself. Like, you guys have seen, like, 2 years ago, I was nearly 200 pounds heavier, but I still had Andrew, and I've lost weight and I still have him. I've been skinny. I've been big. Let's not, how I do it is I say, look, I'm going to have what I want regardless of what size I am. If you're big and you say you're big and you're beautiful and you're big, or, whatever you declare, so how do you stop doing it is you stop making that a factor. You stop saying, I need to be this, right? You've just got to fight those thoughts, get clear on what you want, right? So if what you want is just to be kind to yourself and for people to love you who you are, then you say, I intend for people to love me who I am. But you've got to do a mental diet. We've got to fight those thoughts. So how do we get out of the anxiety for the waiting period? Well, there is no waiting period. You start creating that it's happening now. Okay. If you're doing the work, it's going to start coming to you. You're in charge of the timeline. You don't need to wait for anything. If you're having anxiety during the waiting period, then we're not doing a mental diet. Okay. Because if you are doing a mental diet, you're going to feel neutral and you're going to be like, no, it's coming. So like, for instance, okay, I remember I intended something and then the next, I intended something and then it didn't show up for a week, but I wasn't waiting that week. I was like, every time I thought about it, I'm like, no, it's coming. No, it's coming. No, it's totally coming. And I trusted and I believed in it. And I'm like, there it is. Okay. So there should be no anxiety when you're waiting for anything. If there is, then we need to get on top of our thoughts and start reminding ourselves that we create and we're the creators of our reality and that everyone is us pushed out and that it is coming, and start creating that it's coming and it's coming now. You know what I mean? Yeah. So what do you think about affirming and imagining with stats for a while and then stopping and forgetting the desire? If there's resistance, I don't recommend it, because you know what? You're always thinking about it. So for instance, okay, some people say, oh, just think about it and let it go. Okay, yeah, that works if you don't have any other contrary thoughts whatsoever. So when I think, oh, I like Andrew to bring flowers home for me. Okay, no problem. Okay, thoughts done. I never think of it again. Flowers show up. But when it's something with resistance, okay, your conscious mind is going to undo those sats. Okay. So it's not like, okay, that state akin to sleep. For those that don't know, it's basically at night, you sit there and you go over the end scene after you get your manifestation. You can do that all you want, but your conscious thoughts can still undo that during the day, because your thoughts are things. Okay. This up here is always creating, always creating, always creating. Okay. So what you want to do is anytime you think about what you want, you've got to make sure that you end on the note of what you want. Okay. So if you think, okay, let's say your end result is, getting married, okay, to Gerry. Okay. And that you do sats, right? And then through the day, you're like, Gerry's not calling me. Why isn't he calling me? Is there somebody else? Okay. All those thoughts are going to undo that sats. Okay. Because they're things, they're thoughts, they're creating something. Okay. So, it won't undo if you keep thinking about it. If you keep thinking positive about it, you're putting more into your reality by saying that you'll undo it if you keep thinking about it. Yes, you'll undo it if you keep thinking the negative, but you'll never undo what you want if you're thinking about what you actually want. Your thoughts create. So, John, your statement of saying you'll undo it if you keep thinking about it, you're basically saying your thoughts don't create, which is not correct. Your thoughts do create. So, the more energy you put towards what you want, you are going to get it. Okay. But if you're thinking about things, the negative, then you know what? That's what you're going to create. That's what you're going to get. That's going to undo what you actually want. So if you say once, I want to marry Gerry, and then all day you're having anxiety, worrying why he's not calling you, then you're undoing that statement that Gerry's going to call you or want to marry you or et cetera, et cetera. Okay. Guys, you know what? You have to put energy to this. Your thoughts create. Is there ever a moment that you stop thinking? Absolutely not. Okay. When it's something like a relationship, do you ever stop thinking about it? Probably not. So, how do you stop yourself from actually thinking about something? We're not supposed to. Our thoughts create. We're constantly creating. Of course, you know what? You can create some great thoughts and then you can distract yourself for a while. That's great. But you're always going to come back to it because it's something you want. It's something you desire. Okay. And your subconscious mind, when you make a declaration for something, you're going to see every single thought and every single thing that doesn't align with it. Your subconscious mind's doing you a favor. It's saying, okay, I know you want this, but guess what? You got to change this. And it's like, thank you for showing me that. And then you take those and you revise each and every single one of them. Okay. Yeah. Let's take a look, y'all. What else do we got here for questions? So, any new questions on the TikTok? I like that. I look hot, whatever size I am. Darn right you do. Darn right you do. I'm so happy to see you guys. Yeah. So I feel like I can no longer fight against my negative thoughts. They just keep getting worse. Okay. So, again, what I would do if that's happening is I would actually start, building your belief in your thoughts creating. Okay. Because the way I stop any sort of argument in my mind is no, you know what? Everyone's me pushed out. I've got tons of evidence of this. My thoughts create. Okay. So Yeah, what I would do is I would build my belief in it, create the list of little tiny things that make you believe, that show you that everyone is you pushed out, that your thoughts are constantly creating. Okay. Whether it's catching the bus on time, whether it's someone buying you a coffee, just little things that you know that you've consciously created. The more evidence you get of this, the less fight you're going to have up there. But then also say, the more I fight my negative thoughts, the more positive they get. I always think positive about the situation. I always feel good, and always good things always happen to me, because you could be fighting your negative thoughts and getting more negative thoughts because you have a story that you never get what you want. So now your subconscious mind is going to have to help you actually make that to be true. So there could be a number of reasons why that's happening. So, again, you want to make sure you've got a clean mental diet, and, and it is difficult at first. There is a lot of static. Okay. But, it's about focusing on what you want. And the more focus you put on what you want, the faster it's going to happen. Okay. I know this from experience. I've done it many times, so, focus on what you want. And when you have a thought that you don't want, change it to what you do want, and you will start to see your entire reality change. And in fact, what is it? It's called the wealth. Where is it? I know Andrew's got it around here. It's I think it's The Path or the Secret to Wealth. It's Neville Goddard book, and he talks exclusively about a mental diet in there, and how we either choose to invest our thoughts or we choose to spend them. And so if we have a negative thought, we're spending them. If we have a thought, well, not, a negative meaning not in line with what you want. If you have a positive thought, you're creating, what you're focusing on, what you want, and that's investing them. And that's really what we want to do, is to make sure we're investing all of our thoughts on everything that we would want. Anyways, guys, thank you so much for being here. You guys are all absolutely amazing. Yeah, happy to see you all. And I hope to catch you guys in the next live. And for anybody that maybe the elephant in the room, as you guys know, Katie's on maternity leave. She's welcomed in a new baby, so she will be back soon. In the meantime, she does have a lot of great meditations and courses that we've recorded. So she recorded live before she went on maternity leave. So thank you for being patient. I know a lot of you guys absolutely love her. We love her too. So, and we love each and every one of you guys. I love you guys. You guys are all amazing. And, I just really want to see the best for all of you guys, and keep sending in your success stories, keep posting them, because, sometimes I create, things, in my reality that I don't like. And you know what? The one thing that keeps me going doing this is knowing that you guys are changing your lives, and that you are creating things that make you happy, because each and every one of you guys are perfect. And you guys, every single one of you guys deserve it. So good night, Brandy. Anyways, guys, we'll see you in the next video, and have a great day. Bye-bye.